So, the one thing I knew straight away about the Aygo before even buying it was that it's going to be small. Like, really small. 3.4 meters long, small, to be exact. It's smaller than a VW Up, smaller than a Skoda Citigo, smaller than a Hyundai i10, and even smaller than a banana. On a more serious note, the big question here is then, is the Aygo going to be spacious enough for me? Obviously, this answer is going to really depend on who you are, but I'm going to show you how I make this small car work for me. When I got my Aygo, as soon as I sat in it, I didn't even feel the compromise in size, which is a really nice illusion as it is much smaller than my previous car, but you never ever feel this up front, which is really nice. Legroom is good, headroom is good. I'm just short of 6 foot and legroom and headroom feel comfortable to me. I'm especially impressed with the headroom in the front. In honesty, like compared to the A3 I used to drive, it oddly feels bigger. And this is just purely from a driving perspective. I will say that's probably down to the height of the car as it adds greatly to this. It does get even better up front as you have some nice driver convenience features for a small car, like 2 cup holders are standard, and they are actually in the same place, which is nice. It's always baffled me why some even luxury cars can't manage to put 2 cup holders in the same place. Now, I've been rather glowing about the Aygo up to this point regarding storage and space, but we are about to take a short detour down negative Nelly Lane. Having 2 cup holders in close proximity to each other is about as generous as the Aygo gets for storage up front. You have a small storage space behind the cup holders where I have some COVID supplies and some food, but you aren't going to fit too much else back there. The door cards up front aren't very accommodating either, but they are quite cleverly designed as the front part of the door cards are somewhat angled with a bottle indent, so you can store small drinks that fit snugly in that space provided, which is a nice touch. On the driver's side, I tend to have an Apple charging cable that I pop in the USB every now and then if I need to top up, and I laugh here because an Apple charging cable is about all you're going to fit in that actual door card. The story is similar over the passenger side, but I've added a rather cool little storage bin that I picked up from eBay that really helps with storing rubbish. I did have another one on the driver's side, but I closed the door on it and snap, I broke it. Oops. Door card storage is poor, but the passenger side is somewhat redeemed by the glove box. Remember that I made mention earlier that the door cards have an angled cool bottle indent for you to store drinks? The glove box has one too. It's slightly different though. It's more like a hidey hole for bottles and cups more than anything, but it's a great space-saving little trick, and you really get the feeling that Toyota have made sure they've used every single inch of space on this car. The glove box is a good place to store paperwork as well as creams and tissues for... Never mind. Speaking of tissues, another clever use of space I've managed to use is the sun visor. I've picked up this little tissue storage box that clips onto it, and it makes it super easy to get tissues and doesn't take up any extra space. Now, you might have noticed something of a theme here with the additions that I've added, and that's something I've done to make the car work for me. I strongly believe you'll have to do some accessorizing too, but how much you do entirely is dependent on your needs. That said, one of the single best ways to expand your space storage up front is to install an armrest, and I mean this just purely for storage. Most armrests are too short to actually lean on or lack any structural integrity to support leaning on them, so they are great for storage though, and very much needed if you want to snack on the go. Before we head to the rear of the car, if you're enjoying this video, don't forget to subscribe for more in-depth long-term videos on the Aygo and for whatever car I'm driving in the future. As we head towards the back, it's here where you begin to see the illusion of spaciousness fade real quick. Leg space is very limited for rear passengers, and it feels dark and closeted because of the height on the front seats and the small rear windows, but it's certainly comfortable enough for short rides. I've had a few passengers in the back and they've not complained to my face, so it must be fine. I personally don't shuttle many people around, typically just myself, my wife and our little dog, And one thing that is a godsend on the Aygo is that it has 5 doors, making it immensely practical for popping the dog in and out of the car or just lumping bags and luggage in there. Before buying the Aygo, we considered a Fiat 500, a 3-door version of the VW Up, and even a 3-door version of the Aygo itself. But for practicality, the 5-door wins, hands down. Door cards are a little bit more generous with space in the back too, but we don't have any reason to use them as we seldom have passengers in the rear anyway. Heading even further back, you'll find the ultimate compromise you've had to make when you buy a small city car like the Aygo, and that's the boot space. Coming in at a whopping 168 litres, it is tiny, but it is deep, and as the saying goes, it's not the size of the nail, it's the hammer you're throwing at. Well, something like that anyway. One redeeming feature of the small boot is actually being able to fold the car seats down, which is something, admittedly, I haven't had to do yet, so I can't vouch for how helpful it is. Part of the reason why I'm reluctant to lay the seats flat is because of how I actually make use of storage in the boot. Those eagle-eyed viewers amongst you will have seen all the little compartments draped over the back of the seats, and that is how you make the most of the space in the boot. Believe it or not, what you see in here is pretty much all the things I had in my A3, and the size of the boot on the A3 is double the Aygo. It can store rain jackets, snacks and drinks, umbrellas, storage bags, and cooler bags, and even some Japanese disposable toilets in case you're caught short. In summary then, for such a little car, the Aygo can fit quite a bit more than many people might give it credit for, and it was certainly something that I was usually worried about, but as it turns out, for this little family of 3, meets our needs perfectly, and you can get away with parking in the smallest of spaces too, which is really nice. If you're considering getting an Aygo yourself, and you might want to learn about some of the things that make the Aygo hard to drive, and if that's the case, I have just the video for you right here, and I'll see you there. Bye bye.